Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie from Really Reasonable Ribbon, and I'm here today with my Bow It All tool from Zutter. Today I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a double-tailed bow, and then we're going to take it up a notch and add a second color ribbon to our bow. I'm starting out with two pegs that are 3 inches apart on the back row of holes on my Bow It All. I'm using 7/8 inch organza ribbon. And when we're tying our locking C knot, you're going to hear me talk about the cut end of the ribbon and the working end of the ribbon. When you're working off a spool, it's easy to tell which is the cut end and the working end because the working end is attached to the spool. But you'll see me often using just a piece of ribbon, a scrap piece, and it's not as easy. So what I like to do is cut a point on my cut end so I can always tell which end is the cut end of the ribbon. We're going to start out with our ribbon behind the pegs, and I'm leaving a decent amount on the left side, a little bit more than whatever I want my bow tail length to be. We're going to wrap our ribbon in a figure-8 pattern around the pegs, and today I'm looking for 2 loops on each side. So I have my 2 loops on each side, on each peg. The ribbon in my right hand is going to go between the pegs, and our ribbons are going to cross over in the back. The piece in my left hand is going to be the center of my bow, so with a wider ribbon, I like to fold mine in half to give it a narrower profile. I'm going to bring that down around the bottom. Now I have my cut end is on the bottom, my working end attached to the spool is on the top. I'm switching hands. So now I have the cut end in my right hand. With the working end of the ribbon, I'm going to make a loop, and with the cut end, I'm going to go down and through the loop to make my locking C knot. I'm going to lightly tighten, and then I'm going to take a look at my bow, and if there's any adjustments that I want to make sure that the center is actually in the center. With this tool, you're always looking at the front of your bow, which is great because you can see what it's going to look like. And the bow is actually being formed upside down, so when you're done, the tails will be coming out the top. So once you're satisfied, you can go ahead and tighten your knot as far as it'll go. Oops, and then I'm going to cut my tails. So our first part of our double-tailed bow is done. Now I'm going to take 2 more pegs and add them to the front row of holes, and these are going to be 2 inches apart, centered right in front of the back pegs. Grab my little wrench and snug them down. And we're going to repeat the same process in the front. I'm going to bring my ribbon around behind the front 2 pegs, leaving what I want for my tail on the left. Actually, I didn't make my point. And we're going to figure 8 till we have 2 loops on each side again. Take the ribbon in my right hand and bring it through the pegs. I'm going to fold what's in my left hand in half for the center of the bow and bring it around the back. Now when we do our locking C knot this time, we're going to be catching this back bow in the knot. I also want to make sure that my first 2 tails, there's 1 on either side. I don't want to find 2 on one side of the knot when I'm done. So again, lightly tighten, take a look, make sure everything is where you want it. If the center isn't quite in the center, you can adjust that. These are the tails from the first bow. And then you can just, once you're satisfied, go ahead and tighten. Now the tails, this is the tails from the first bow, which is the bigger one in the back. They're going to be in front of the tails for the smaller bow. So I want to cut these tails just a little bit longer because that's the way I like them, but it's really up to you, however you want them to be. And when you're done, go ahead and pull your bow off. Fluff your loops if they need fluffing. And there's your double-tailed bow. I've been asked by a few people for a view from the back while I'm making a bow, so I'm going to give this a shot. So you're now looking at, rather than over my shoulder, you're looking directly on. I've got my cut end of the ribbon with the little point in my left hand, and I'm going to leave whatever tail I need, or whatever length I want. We're going to figure eight around the back pegs until I have 2 loops on each side. With the ribbon in my right hand, I'm going to come through the center. We're going to cross over in the back, and the ribbon in my left hand I have folded in half because it's going to be the center of my bow. I'm going to bring that around to the back. So now I have my cut end on the bottom, the working end is on the top. I'm switching hands. Going to make a loop with the working end, and the cut end is going to come through the loop, and I'm going to lightly tighten my knot. Not sure how good it's, I think it's showing. You can see the C forming on the back if you have your knot done properly. Gonna check and just make sure the center is in the center and everything looks nice, because the front side is on the side that I'm looking at. You're now looking at the back of the bow. When I'm satisfied, I'm gonna go ahead and pull it tight, and hopefully you can see the pattern of the C forming the knot in the back. Gonna go ahead and trim my tails. And that's the first part of our double-tailed bow. I'm going to come in with my second piece of ribbon. I'm going to do exactly the same thing as we did with the first piece, and we're working on the front pegs now. Once we have 2 loops on either side, I'm going to cross my ribbons in the back. The one on my left hand is folded in half. It's going to become the center of the bow. I'm going to bring it around the front and out the back, and we are now going to catch the first bow in our knot this time, which will join the 2 together. Making my locking C knot and lightly tightening it. I'm going to make sure the tails for my original bow, one is coming out each side. And take a look at the front, make any adjustments that are necessary. And then I'm going to go ahead and tighten up the knot. And when I trim these tails, they will be behind the first set of tails, so I'm going to make them just a little bit longer. And then just go ahead and slide it off. And we need to fluff the loops. And there's our double-tailed bow. So now that you've seen how that goes together, since you're essentially making 2 separate bows anyway, why not do 2 different colors? This is our delicate stitch satin. This is a great ribbon for beginner bow makers. If you're having trouble with your bow at all tool and you're getting a little frustrated, go to organza ribbon or something like this delicate stitched satin. They're no fail. They're so easy to work with. They make beautiful puffy bows. So don't frustrate yourself when you're just learning. Go to the organza or the lightweight satin. So we're doing the same thing that we did before. I've got 2 loops on either side. I'm going to tie my first bow. Again, just lightly tighten, take a look and make sure it's the way you want it to be. And then tighten all the way. Trim your tails. And now I have a little bit darker pink. And again, I'm going to do 2 loops on either side. Bring the ribbon in my right hand around. Tie my knot. And lightly tighten it. Check all the parts, make sure everything is where it belongs. Tighten it and go ahead and trim your tails. And there's your little 2-colored double-tailed bow. Now if you were looking perhaps just for the double-colored bow, but you don't necessarily care to have the tails, the double tails, you could actually use one of these sets of tails, either one, and go ahead and use that as the back ribbon to attach the bow to your project. The only difference between this and the back ribbon we talked about using the helping hand pegs on a previous video is you wouldn't be able to move this bow because this is part of the knot, whereas if you have a back ribbon you can adjust your bow side to side. But that is actually a pretty 2-colored bow for a card, so that's another option. Thanks so much for watching today, and I hope you're enjoying your Bow It All tool. Be sure to subscribe to our Reasonable Ribbon YouTube channel so you don't miss any upcoming videos.